Good afternoon, students. Welcome to the exciting world of logistics and supply chain management. I'm sure by this time we have all heard of this term logistics and supply chain. This is a course which has been specially designed for students like you. We understand all of you are pursuing some course or the other, either an MBA or a PGDM course, you're associated with some business school. So we have designed the course in a manner it fits into your current curriculum, and why logistics and supply chain management we'll gradually discuss during the course of time. It's a vast course. Logistics and supply chain management is a subject which covers many aspects, but before we go to each and individual subject or chapter, it is important for us to have an overview of the subject as a whole. We should know what is this subject is all about, what is this meant for, why should we learn about logistics and supply chain management, what is the relevance it has with the industries and your career. As I was saying, this has been designed in a manner, it has been divided into various chapters and subjects, and it spreads over about 200 to 250 hours spread over few months together. We will have some evaluation in between, but before that I would like to take you through an overview of the logistics and supply chain management. What is this all about? What is this logistics? What is supply chain management? What is the difference between logistics and supply chain? Every day we hear about logistics. We hear about the importance of logistics and supply chain management in development of the country. Why is it so important? I will conduct this course in combination with a PowerPoint, as well as whenever there is a requirement for me to highlight few points. If there is a need for some graphical representation, I'll go to the board and I'll write it down. It's very important that all of you very carefully follow what is being said, because this is the need of the hour. This particular subject is need of the hour, not only in India but globally. So let's refer to the PowerPoint presentation that we have. As you can see, we are talking of logistics and supply chain. Over a period of time, we know the concept of logistics. What is logistics? Movement of goods from manufacturer to the dealer, from the supply to the manufacturer, or from the manufacturer to the wholesaler, from the wholesaler to the customer. Logistics is very, very organization oriented, a single organization oriented. It only covers the activities that is executed by a particular organization or a particular facility or a particular unit. Supply chain management is different. Supply chain management is complicated. It covers the entire chain. In manufacturing, there are many companies, many facilities who are involved in the composition of the finished goods. So when we talk of logistics, see carefully, we are talking of one organization. The way the organization received the goods, stored the goods in their facility, and finally delivered it to their customer. Now this organization could be a manufacturer or could be a supplier, or could be anybody. But when we come to this is logistics, movement of goods and only focus to a particular organization. When we talk of supply chain management, it covers everybody, right from the supplier of raw materials. We all know that when we have a finished product, there are many companies involved before we get the finished product. It starts from the supplier of raw materials, then it goes to the manufacturer. From the manufacturer, it will go to the dealers. From the dealers, it will go to the retailers. And from the retailers to the end customer. This is logistics, this is logistics, this is logistics, this is logistics in isolation, but this entire activity or operation constitutes supply chain management. We will have many notes, study materials, e-books that will be delivered to you, through system or other methods, and you will learn more about the difference between logistics and supply chain theoretically. As you can see, logistics and supply chain management, the learning is not restricted to students only. It could be, the subject is so unique that it can be studied and learned at the level of intermediate students, at the level of undergraduates, postgraduates, or even working executives. Because if you refer to the slide, we have the management students, the engineering students, the professional wanting to learn more about supply chain and management, executives with having experience. So there are people at different levels who can learn this particular subject at the basic as well as at an advanced level. At the beginning of the lecture, I mentioned why is there a need to learn logistics and supply chain management. We all know that for a country to develop, the country's infrastructure, manufacturing industries, services, they all need to improve. Our country is wants to be a global manufacturing hub. There are some very innovative steps being taken. Every state, every company are geared to improve and make their supply chain efficient. I will show you in a different slide that there are statistics which shows that this country, if you can refer to the next slide, this country in the next 15 years or so intends to grow its GDP from $2 trillion, which is our GDP at the moment, to $7 trillion in about 15 years time from now, 10 to 15 years time from now. There will be an increase in the manufacturing hub, there will be increase in the middle income group, there will be increase in urbanization, there will be increase in mega cities. All this is possible if the production, if the GDP growth, if the manufacturing infrastructure all gets a boost. For that, the country needs supply chain professionals to manage the supply chain of the country. As you can see from the next slide, the country spends on an average 7 to 8% of its GDP as logistics expenditure. 7 to 8% of GDP this is a huge number. We are talking of 7 to 8% of true $1 trillion as being the total logistics expenditure in our country. Without efficient logistics professional, this number will only go up. This percentage range includes all logistics related expenses, and this expense will only go up unless the supply chain of the various industries are made cost effective and efficient. So, we go back to the previous slide, and there is a need to focus on this particular slide as to why there is a need in our for logistics and supply chain professionals in our country. Because an integrated supply chain is a network of business and contractors that provide raw materials. That's the definition of supply chain. India is becoming a global manufacturing hub. So, we need cost effective quality output. Supply chain disruption management is a main issue. When I say disruption, it means we need to come out of the traditional methods. We need to be innovative to make the supply chain more efficient in order to have significant cost saving in our day-to-day operations. Also, effective supply chain management has become a crucial competitive advantage in India today, where organizers are facing with poor infrastructure, volatile customer demand, cost of logistics and inventory. Organization dynamics with suppliers and downstream partners. What does it mean? All the industries or the companies, there is a lot of competition today among the companies and the industries. The industries, and it is all because there is a change in the customer demand. All this starts with what the customers need today. Today the customer demand is far different from what it was 20 or 30 years back. See the range of cars we have today. See the range of cell phones we have today. See the range of apparels we have today. See the range of electronics we have today. See the range of electrical gadgets we have today. The customers need choice. The customer wants options. The customer needs options at a better price and better service. And all that is not possible unless a particular company. And we have seen how bad management of supply chain makes a company suffer. Without naming any company, a particular cell phone company who were the market leaders between 2000 to 2010, and since they did not manage their supply chain in the appropriate manner and did not listen to what the customers were demanding, they were taken over by some other company as the market leader. And there are many such examples, not only in telecom industries, in every other industry that I have just mentioned, whether it's auto, textile, pharma, cement, whatever it may be. So, currently we have what we need to focus on is the infrastructure, kind of infrastructure we have, the kind of operational procedure a company follows. All these needs a boost, all these needs efficient handling, and for that there is a need to study how the supply chain of a company, of an industry, or as a whole our country needs to be managed. And that is the reason there is a need to have more and more supply chain professionals. People should know the difference between logistics and supply chain. People should know how efficiently transportation can be done. We should know how efficiently warehousing can be done. We should know how to partner with our suppliers. We should know what role a distributor or a retailer has. Let's move on to the few other slides. If you observe, if you see and if you explore today, the world has come very close because of internet, because of information availability, you will know very quickly that all major institutes, education institutes, all business schools who traditionally were offering courses oriented around marketing, HR, IT, which is still important, no doubt about it, but they are all introducing supply chain management as one of their courses, either as a part of their existing curriculum or as a separate paper or a course, whether it's the IITs or the Indian Institute of Management or other institutes. They are the leading institutes, then there are other institutes in the different states who are gradually, and there are local institutes, management institutes, they all realize that there is a need to introduce logistics and supply chain management as a course in their respective institutes. And students, there is a growing number of students who are accepting logistics and supply chain management as a course and as a career. We have already discussed about this. This actually reflects why we need supply chain management, why supply chain management is important. If the government vision of improving all the sectors in multiples of, if you can see, the GDP has to increase by 7 times, and there are other about 4 to 5 times increase in urbanization, mega cities. So if all that has to happen, a mega city does not happen overnight. For a city to become a mega city, it needs a lot of infrastructure development. And if you have to have mega cities in the tune of 15 to 18 in a period of 15 years, there is a serious need of infrastructure development. And who will do that? It will be done by the logistics and supply chain professionals. Well, I will not go deep into this. This is a study made by the pay scale of India, which actually shows the gradual increase in remunerations offered by different companies for logistics and supply chain professionals. And gradually, supply chain professionals, fresh graduates, they are being absorbed at a very, very satisfying remuneration and salaries at different companies. As I said, where does the supply chain management originate from? Why is there a need today? To understand why we should graduate from logistics to supply chain management. Why is there a need to include and involve everybody in the chain? So this is a chain. So supplier, manufacturer, distributor, retailer, customer. Isn't this a chain? This is a chain. Why is there a need to integrate this chain? All this is because it's all triggered from customer demand, customer behavior. Now, what does customer service do? As I said at the very beginning, this is just an overview of the subject as a whole. There are different chapters. We will not get into the different subjects and chapters right away. We will do it gradually as we move forward. There will be other resources, other faculties who will also engage, very senior and experienced faculties who will also explain and deliver lectures on the different subjects, whether it's warehousing, whether it's forecasting, sourcing, transportation, whatever it may be. But to come back to what we were discussing, customer service is the key, or is the origin of the concept of supply chain management. What does a customer service do? What is customer service all about? It's about taking care of a customer need right from before the transaction happen, during the transaction and post transaction. When you place an order, how efficiently that order is processed, how efficiently the order is taken care of in terms of delivery, And post transaction, once delivery is done, it can be anything. It can be a service, it can be a product, can be from any industry. So, these three phases is taken care of by an efficient customer service: pre-transaction, transaction and post-transaction. So, these are the functions. Also, let me tell you before we proceed forward, what we discussed just now is supply chain management. It takes into account everybody in the system. It involves everybody in the system. So, it also involves the three phases of strategy, tactics and operation. Supply chain management covers the entire, all the three phases. Now, what is the strategy? Why it is important to know that when we are talking of supply chain management, we are not talking of one particular aspect, we are talking of all the three at the same time. What is a strategy? Let us give an example. A company may want to be a market leader. That is the strategy of the company. We want to become the market leader of the company, market leader in our industry. Now, how to do that? You cannot become a market leader just like that. There has to be a tactical approach. There has to be tactics. So, one of the tactics could be we will offer 10% lesser price than our competitor. That could be a tactics. So, strategy gives us the overall goal of the company. Tactics gives us, in order to reach this goal, how we break up the plan in order to reach the goal. Operation is all about execution. So, we strategize. It is done by the top management of a company. Then it is given to the domain experts. Could be the marketing, could be the IT, could be operations, logistics professionals. So, plans or goals are broken up. So, here the role is of the domain expert. It is here the strategy is done by the top management of the company. It gives the broader objective or the broader goal of the company. And execution, it's even the entire tactics is how to achieve this goal. Then comes the execution process. That is what is called operations. So, supply chain management, it does not only involve strategy, it does not only involve tactics, it does not only involve operations. In logistics, it is primarily operations. So, logistics is a part of supply chain management. This is something we all should understand. Now, supply chain again has evolved over a period of time. The way we have graduated from logistics to supply chain, traditional supply chain supplier of raw materials goes to the manufacturer, which is the company and the manufacturer to the end customers. This is traditional supply chain. From traditional supply chain management, we go to extended supply chain management. This becomes more complicated, and we will all learn this in detail when we go through the different chapters and the different subjects. Extended supply chain. When we say extended, we are stretching an existing system. We are adding to the existing system. Today, the industry or the way a company operates is much more complicated than what it used to be 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years back. There is a change every day. There is a change the way the company operates. So, there are number of other entities who are getting involved in the supply chain. Now, who are these other entities? Let us refer to the PowerPoint. The supplier, when we say supplier, somebody is supplying raw materials. So, somebody is providing raw materials, this goes to the manufacturer. It no more goes to the customer directly, it is channelized through the distributor. The distributor sends it to the retailer, and retailer finally delivers to the final customer. That is not all. As I said, there are other entities who are entering this chain. Who are the other entities? There are companies who does product designing. Who does design for you? This product designer are connected to either the manufacturer or the raw material, because he has no relevance to distributor retailer, because this is distribution and marketing. We also have finances. Today the business operates at large scale. The company's own capital, own fund is always not sufficient for the company to run at such a large scale. The company, any company today, they intend to extend their network not only in the country itself, but also globally. They have different products. The quality and the quantity of the products are gradually increasing as per the need of the market. So, what we are saying, there is a finance support required. Finance support required maybe to the manufacturer, maybe to the distributor. Finance support can be required by anybody in the supply chain, primarily, as we said, manufacturer and distributor, because they have large scale operations, their infrastructure is very high. For the distributor, warehousing, distribution, transportation, all this requires big money. You also have market research companies who are constantly providing you with information from the market. What are the changes that the market is going through? What are the competitions doing in terms of figures, in terms of information? So, these market research companies often are used by distributors and retailers. You have logistics service provider. You have logistics service provider. Now, this logistics service provider are not a part of the company, are not a part of the organization. This logistics service provider, they are different companies providing logistics services in terms of transportation, in terms of freight, domestic or international, warehousing, packaging, material handling. There are so many logistics services that are required by an organization. So, all those are provided by the logistics service provider. Now, can you see how complicated from traditional to extended? It is getting more and more complex. Today we also have business support. So, these are the entities who are gradually getting added to the chain and making the chain extended. So, there are different channels through which a supply chain relationship operates. These channels could be primary or specialized. The primary channels are the manufacturer, wholesaler, the retailer, who are directly involved with the day-to-day operations, who are directly involved with the stage from which a raw material is supplied to the delivery to an end customer. Then there are functional channels in terms of support, customer service, IT. So, these are the channels through which the supply chain structure and relationship grows. As I said and I repeat, this is an overview. Warehouse management is one of the most key aspect of a supply chain operation. A proper warehouse management or an improper warehouse management can either make or break a company. And we will know how. As I said, when we move forward with this particular course from now to the next few months, we will have topics on warehouse management, we will have topics separately on transportation, and there we will see how warehouse management, there are since we are here to explain you the overview. Warehouse management, warehouses are of three types. It could be a public or a private or a contracted. Now, there are pros and cons. There are three types. Now, there is a decision making process as to which type of warehouse should be used by a particular company. Should it have a private warehouse? We will learn when we do warehouse management what are the advantages and disadvantages. A private warehouse will have better control, will give us a better control in terms of security, in terms of operations. But having a private warehouse will involve higher financial support, higher capital involvement, whereas a public warehouse can be cost effective. These are shared warehouses, but that may not give you the kind of efficiency or the kind of security that you expect from a private warehouse. Then there are contracted warehouse which are contracted for a particular period of time. Again, if you go back to the slide, if you see what are the benefits, there are two types of benefits, and these are contrasting benefits. As you can see, economic and service. Both cannot go hand to hand, but that is the reason why an efficient supply chain manager is required today to properly integrate economy and service. When I say economic, it can consolidate break bulk processing, it can do a stockpiling. These are the economical aspects of a warehousing, whereas from service side it can do stock assignment, assortment, mixing. So, there are two sides of the warehouse, the usage, the function, and the way a warehouse should be made use of, and is the duty of the supply chain manager to combine both correctly. Material handling, there will be separate chapters. Once again I repeat, an overview. If you see the way material is handled within a plant, in any facility, there is a definite significance development the way materials are handled. It is becoming more and more automated over a period of time. We will show you videos, we will show you photos, images of modern warehouses where human involvement is minimum. Material handling has become automated, and material handling is not only receiving a shipment, storing in the warehouse, and then picking from the warehouse. It is not only that. There are a lot of other aspects today that needs to be considered, and they are: how to load, what is the most efficient way to load or to unload, how to best utilize, optimum utilization of the space in the warehouse, how should the movement should be risk free, how the movement should be fast at the same time risk free, and how efficiently we should store the goods. All these aspects fall under material handling management in a warehouse. We will come back after the break to tell you more about what this particular subject is all about. It is very interesting, it is a need of the hour, it is what our country and the entire world needs today. We will go through the other subjects and give you a brief idea as to what will be presented in the next classes, like as we just said about warehouse management, material handling. So, we will briefly discuss about sourcing, 3PL and 4PL involvement in the next session after this break. Thank you. Shipping goods from one place to the other. It could be a supplier to a manufacturer, or a manufacturer to its distributor, or the distributor to its retailer. But supply chain, it covers all the companies involved in the production of the finished goods and finally delivering it to the final customers. We also discussed how traditional supply chain, which involved only the supplier, the manufacturer and the customer, graduated to the extended supply chain, where we have multiple players, players who do not belong to the supply chain, the main supply chain. For instance, there are support players, there are companies providing finances, there are companies providing business support, there are companies providing logistic support. How the entrance and inclusion of these companies have constituted an extended supply chain. Before that, we definitely discussed the reason, the need of supply chain management as a course, why we need supply chain management, because that is the need of the hour. A country is developing fast, it wants to grow, it is one of the fastest growing economy in the world, we all know, and that is going to continue for the next 15-20 years. It's going to be, it aims to become a superpower in the next 1 decade and a half, that is about 15 to 20 years. To develop the industries, to develop the infrastructure, there is a need for efficient management of the supply chains, as it constitutes a very high percentage of the overall cost that a company incurs. I mentioned that as a country, we spend about 8 to 10% of our GDP as the overall logistics expenses. That covers all expenses, that covers transportation, that covers handling, that covers warehousing, that covers forecasting, that covers everything related to the supply chain activity. Currently, the country does not have the required kind of infrastructure, facility, efficiency, knowledge. There is a lack of institutions, there have been lack of institutions offering courses on supply chain management. There is a change, there has been a change over the last 1 decade. There are institutes at national level, at the state, regional and local, who are including logistics and supply chain management as a part of their curriculum. That is the reason why this course is all about. This is going to enhance your efficiency, it is going to enhance your acceptability to the industry, as there is a growing need, growing demand for logistics professionals. That was just to recap. We also discussed about few of the aspects as to where the need for supply chain management has all come from. It's primarily come from the growing need of the customers. There is an increasing consumption power in our country. Today the customers need options, need choice, need better service, need better efficiency, better delivery, better product, better quality and a variety. So the companies have come across some very stiff competition between them. There is a reason why the companies are focusing on improving their own supply chain, to improve this efficiency and to finally cater to this customer need. We have also discussed very briefly the different chapters or the subjects that we are finally ultimately going to deliver in the next few months. Material handling is the last slide that we discussed. We go on to the next slide. Transportation. Transportation, like warehouse, constitutes a very, very important area as far as the supply chain is concerned, as far as the supply chain of a particular company is concerned. competitiveness, economies of scale and cost benefits. All these three put together result in effective transportation. It has to be competitive, it should offer you economies of scale, you should be able to aggregate, you should have benefits. We will, when we go to transportation as a chapter, we will learn more about how traditional transportation management has over a period of time graduated, developed and it has become more efficient, how IT, how technology is effectively used in managing transportation in a company. Today transportation management system is a very, very effective tool to manage transportation in the company, but that we will learn when we take transportation as an individual chapter. By transportation, we not necessarily mean domestic transportation or road transportation. There are different types of transportation. As you can see, it could be air, truck, rail, water, pipeline, intermodal. Now, we all know about the road transportation, we all know about air transportation, sea transportation, ocean freight. Pipeline means transporting materials like oil and gas which are consumed at a very high volume by different companies. So, there is a need for efficient movement of such materials, raw materials from the source to the place where it is required. There are two aspects of transportation costs. One is a cost factor and one is a decision factor. We have to decide, transportation has to be cost effective. Among all the cost in logistics, we did say logistics itself constitute a very high percentage of the total cost incurred by a company. Now, if you divide all the costs, transportation itself constitute a high percentage of the total logistics cost, and it depends upon what mode we choose, what is the volume we are transporting, what is the distance we are covering, what is the demand, what is the frequency of our transportation. So, there is a decision factor also. We have to decide the mode, we have to decide the routing, we have to decide scheduling, how shipment should be sent, whether it should be consolidated, whether it should be sent exclusively. So, as you can see, there is a need for a supply chain professional to strategize its transportation management system within the organization. In order to, we have discussed earlier, on one side you have customers' need to be taken care of, on the other side it has to be cost effective, and there has to be a mix, there has to be a balance. While customers' need may be fast delivery, on time delivery, whereas from a logistic, from a cost point of view, you have to optimize your cost, you have to efficiently, effectively use your fleet, your transportation, your volume, your frequency. So, both should be amalgamated, both should be properly made use of, so that the ultimate objective of the company is achieved, which is generally meeting the customer needs at an optimum cost. Packaging. Now, packaging is something has become, it's again developed and improved over a period of time. Packaging, what does it do? It gives protection, basically it gives a protection to the material. It increases its productivity, efficiency, its life. It also gives information. Now, there are two types, one is a consumer, there are two types of packaging, one is a consumer packaging, one is industrial packaging. It is very interesting, when we say consumer packaging, ones which are used on a day to day life, We go to a grocery shop, we see items for our daily use. It could be bread, it could be milk, it could be biscuits. Whereas on the industrial front, you have machineries, tools, oils, different types of materials which are used for industrial production. Now, two types of packaging, they are both different. So, when we study packaging as a chapter, we will learn more as to how these two different packaging types are handled, how they are made more efficient and cost effective. Function of packaging, basically it protects the material, right? It protects the contents, that is one. Today packaging has evolved and it has become far different than what it used to be earlier. You pick up any package, whether it is of consumer use or it is an industrial good, you will find different informations, and sometimes these informations are a mandate, these informations are compulsory. You will have the date of production, you will have probably the date of expiry, you will find information where it was manufactured, you will find the contents, you will find how much fat or carbohydrate, how much cholesterol it may have. So, there is a duty for the manufacturer to inform the customer about the contents, its hygiene, its make, its expiry. So, information is very important today as far as packaging is concerned. We are not only talking of consumer goods. If you come across any industrial package, you go to a port, if you see different types of packages being shipped, if you go to a warehouse where different items are shipped within the country or abroad, you will find different information, particularly international, as to what are the contents inside, how should the package should be handled. You would have seen upside down, you have seen the a picture or an image of an umbrella which says this item should be protected from water. It gives an arrow showing that how this item should be carried during its entire travel, which side should be up, which side should be down. Unless those are followed, by the time the item reaches from the origin to the destination, there may be spillage, there may be damages. So, packaging is an extremely important part of the entire supply chain operation. Information system, over a period of time, technology is coming to the forefront. In every section of the supply chain management, technology is taking a front seat. It is becoming very, very important. Information is extremely important. Now, what are the functions? What does information do? It helps to transact. It helps to control the business. Information helps the management. It is an important and efficient tool for the management to control the business. Information helps the management to take decisions, to analyze. Information helps the management to do strategic planning. And what are the principles? We cannot provide any information. Information is, the principles of information is availability. What does it mean? It should be available at the time it is required. The information should be accurate. The information should follow a particular timeline. It should not go beyond a particular deadline or a timeline that it has been given. It should be exception based. There should be flexibility. And information should be appropriate, which means it should be what it is required for. I am giving an information to somebody, and that information should be of use to that particular person or individual or department or the company as a whole. Distribution network. As you can see, manufacturing store, direct shipping, manufacturing store to direct shipping and in transit store, distribution store, carrier delivery, endpoint delivery, between distributor and manufacturer, consumer pickup, retail store. To decide what a distribution network would be, what do you mean by the distribution network? The response time, product variety, product availability, customer experience, marketing time, etc. Now, what is distribution network? A company has produced an item, a product, whatever product it could be. It could be an industrial product, it can be a consumer product. Now, what is the ultimate aim of this product? Is to reach the end customer. It could be an industrial customer, it could be a retail customer. Now, to decide the path, how it should move from the place of origin to the destination, decides the distribution network. There are companies who directly deliver industrial products. We know about this we know that Dell, who needs no introduction. They have a system of direct delivery to the customers right from their manufacturing unit. They customize the product. They believe that by doing so, they will meet the customer demand. That is the company strategy. But there are products who does not go directly from manufacturer to the end customer. When we read this subject or chapter in detail, we will know what are the different types of distribution network that a company follows. There is a network where there is an in-transit storage. So, it does not go to the customer directly. It comes to a storage in between, it gets sorted, and then it goes to the different customers. Then there are storages at the end point, and then we have the last mile deliveries. There are shipment. Today in the world of e-commerce, we have seen hyperlocal deliveries happening, which are delivered by local delivery boys. So, basically distribution network is again extremely important in the supply chain, because ultimately the distribution network decides how quickly and how efficiently, and as I repeat every time, while we should consider what the customer needs, we should also be conscious that the customer needs should be met at optimum cost. So, it is the efficiency of a logistics manager or a supply chain manager who decides what will be the best distribution network that his company would follow. Is it directly from the production unit to the customer, or should it go to the distributor, to the retailer and the customer, or should the distributor directly go and deliver it to the customer through a carrier? There is also a network by which customers can come to the distribution center and pick up their goods, and we will all learn in detail when we go through the chapter of distribution network. Sourcing. Today in this complex world of supply chain management, there is a decision that has to be taken whether to make or to buy, whether to do it in-house or outsource. When I say in-house, it is quite obvious. I want to process, I want to make, I want to do that activity within the company. My company would do it. When I say outsourced, I contract or I ask some other company to do it on my behalf. I get into a contract with a company, another company, and the activity can be anything. It could be manufacturing, it can be logistics services, it could be IT support, it could be marketing support, whatever it may be. So, there is a big decision to be taken. That is the reason this chapter is called sourcing. What is the source of this particular activity? When I outsource it, either I outsource it through a 3PL, that is a third party logistics service provider, or a 4PL. When we study this particular chapter called sourcing, we will know that 3PL and 4PL has become extremely important over a period of time. By 3PL, we understand third party service providers, whereas a 4PL, they engage a third party logistics service provider. A 4PL manages the entire activity, and they in turn engage third party services. A company may hire a company to do one of the projects for them. For instance, X company, they ask company Y to undertake a project on behalf of X. Y is responsible to execute the entire project for X. So, Y is a 4PL service provider. Now, in turn, Y has to engage a number of, he can engage third party logistics service providers, because he does not have the expertise in freight, in warehousing, because in that particular project there may be need to shift goods from one place to the other. There may be a need for domestic movement, international movement, overseas movement, warehousing, customs clearance. For that, Y would engage a 3PL. X necessarily will not interact with the third party service provider, which is the responsibility of the 4PL. We will learn more, as I said, when we specifically study this particular chapter called sourcing. Forecasting, we all are familiar with this particular term called forecasting. What does forecasting tell us? Forecasting helps us to plan what should be produced, what should be sold, what should be procured based on estimation. There are different models of forecasting. When we study forecasting individually as a chapter, we will know what are the different models. At this point of time, I would like to just again go back to the PowerPoint. So, what is the value of a forecasting? Common goals, logistics information, system planning and coordination. These are the values that a good forecasting system provides. What are the different types of forecasting? There are dependent forecasting, independent forecasting. There are base demand, different components are demand, seasonal, trend, cyclical. What does it mean? A company has a base demand. The demand may change based on the season, based on the trend. So, when you forecast for a particular product for the next financial year, you have to take into account the seasonal changes, the trend, what is the market looking at, what is the trend, what is the direction that the market is going at. Based on that, you forecast your production, your revenue, your sales. Again, when we discuss this chapter exclusively, we will learn more about this, and more important, the forecasting models, which helps us in providing as much accurate forecast as possible, because there is a saying that forecasts are always erroneous. You cannot have a very specific and a correct forecast. You have to have a very close estimation. How to do that, we will learn in the chapter of forecasting in the next few months. Now, what drives the supply chain? There are logistical drivers and there are cross functional drivers. What are logistical drivers? When we say logistical drivers, it refers to the operations where logistics is involved. Logistics is involved in a facility, in doing inventory management and in transportation, because in all these cases there are movement of goods, there is storage, and cross functional drivers, information sourcing and pricing. What do you mean by cross functional drivers? So, there are two types of drivers, one is logistical and one is cross functional. Logistics takes care of the operational part, the movement part, the handling part, the transportation part. The cross functional drivers take care of the different departments, how they integrate, how they coordinate. There are different departments that constitute a company, correct? Marketing, finance, IT, HR, development, engineering, architecture, there are several departments, and they are called functional. They are responsible for a particular functional. Now, when these functions integrate, they work with each other, they plan, they drive the supply chain. So, the logistical driver and the cross sectional drivers put together, they drive the entire supply chain. Network design. Now, when we set up a plant, any company has to set up a plant, whether it is within the country or overseas. There are some definite plans that has to be made. You cannot just set up a plant or a company or a factory anywhere. It is done in phases. There are different phases. You have to go through each and every phase before you set up a plant or you set up a facility somewhere. At the initial phase, you should look at whether do I have competition over there. Then there is a phase which should tell you whether I have the necessary infrastructure over there, whether I have the manpower over there, whether there is a connectivity by rail to the port is there or not, whether transportation facility is available or not, whether warehousing facility is available or not, what are the government rules out there, what are the taxes applicable in that particular part of the country or other country, within our country or other country. So, phase wise all these parameters are to be taken care of, then only we arrive, then only the final decision of setting up a plant or setting up a factory or plant or a network is decided. This is a chapter again that we are going to discuss, and we are going to go through the different phases in detail. We are not going to discuss bullwhip effect directly. It has lot to do with forecasting. It will tell you how a wrong forecasting within the supply chain can spoil the entire supply chain's plan and strategy. As we said, supply chain is all about combining the entire system, combining all the facilities, all the companies who are involved. So, just to briefly tell you, from a supplier to a manufacturer to a distributor to a retailer and to the customer. In supply chain, this is called downstream and this is called upstream. When you see a river, downstream means along the flow, upstream means against the flow. Supply chain management is so important. The facilities, the companies, the functions are so integrated that any error in anything, any of the functions, here we are talking of forecasting. If there is an error in forecasting by a retailer or a distributor, it can spoil the entire supply chain upstream. If you suddenly find that your forecast was wrong, based on your forecast, a particular distributor had ordered a particular shipment or a volume of shipments or volume of number of shipments. Based on that, the manufacturer has planned his supply chain. The manufacturer in turn, based on that forecast, has ordered supplies. So, everything gets disturbed. So, more you go upstream, the disturbance is even greater. I can give you a very nice example. You would have seen cards. When you place cards one after the other and you push one card, the entire lane of cards fall. This is exactly what happens over here. And again, we are going to discuss this in detail in the days to come. Global logistics will not be discussed in detail at this point of time. As we said, it is important to understand the complexities of going global, of going international. There are complexities of setting up offices or setting up or extending your network or your operations beyond the boundary of the country. What are the factors that needs to be taken care of? That is what we are going to discuss in global supply chain or global logistics. Supply chain also makes you conscious about the government mandates, rules and regulations. Without knowledge of the government's rules and regulations at different parts of the country and also overseas, every country has different and separate rules and regulations. Our country has motor vehicle rules, they have road act rules, they have rule by carriage by air, carriage by sea, multimodal transportation, sales tax rules, goods and service tax, Environmental Protection Act, Consumer Protection Act. It is very important for a company and for a supply chain professional to understand and not violate and deviate from the rules that are set by the government. Otherwise, there will be serious problem in running the business. There could be government intervention if you violate any of the rules. So, it is important to know the rules as well. It is a part of the supply chain management curriculum. Short, but yes, you have to make people conscious about these rules. Lean and agile supply chain will tell us in future. By lean, we mean slim, something that we generally say that we have a lean body. That means this body lacks excess fat. In organization, by lean organization we mean this company does not have anything additional, no additional manpower, no additional facility, no additional IT involvement. It is a lean structure. So, by doing that, what does a lean person do? He is more efficient, he can run faster, he can work faster. So, his productivity is even more. So, a lean supply chain which takes care of all the waste cannot take care of its inventory, because by being a lean supply chain, the productivity increases and so does the production. Today people are concentrating on agile supply chain, because one has to understand that I may be efficient, my production level may be very good, but if I do not hear what the market is asking, what the consumer asking, I may land up in having excess inventory. For instance, we see every now and then, just think of the packaged water, drinking water. Every now and then we see there are different types of drinking water or soft drink bottles being manufactured, sometimes 2 liters, sometimes 1 liter, sometimes smaller ones. Now, why is this happening? This is happening because that is what the customer needs, and the companies are very quick to follow the agile supply chain model and revise and redesign their supply chain system so that the customer's demand is met. What happens if you do not do it? You have produced a huge number of 2 liter drinking bottle, whereas the need of the hour are small drinking water, small packages, small bottles. Within no time, your 2 liter or whatever will become obsolete, they will become an additional inventory because there is no buyer for them. This is just an example. This can happen with automobiles, it can happen with cell phones, it can happen with any electronic goods, it can happen with any electrical gadgets, it can happen with any food item. If you are not agile, if you are not alert to the market, even though you maintain a lean supply chain, you will land up in having excess inventory, which over a period of time will be a loss to the company. We will learn more later. Supply chain finance is not study of finance. We all know, as I said, if we constantly think of what supply chain is all about, it is all about integrated activities. As a supply chain manager, as a warehouse manager, I should be conscious about the company's budgets, its cost control objectives, how I should the kind of supplies I should engage. So, let us just run through what supply chain finance is all about. It converts cost savings into equivalent sales increase, understand a company's income statement and balance sheet, demonstrate the impact of supply chain strategies on the income statement, balance sheet, profitability, understand and use the strategic profit model, analyze the financial impact of supply chain service failures, utilize the spreadsheet, computer software, etc. What does this mean? We started our lecture saying that our country or any organization spends a significant amount on logistics expenditure, significant amount. Logistics expenditure is probably the highest among all the expenditure put together in a particular organization. So, there is a need to control this expenditure. Now, nobody can control this expenditure unless he understands what the company's objectives are, what does his balance sheet is saying. Am I incurring additional expenditure on transport? Do I have the wrong kind of supplier? Is this raw material available at a better price? Is there a need to have better contracts? Am I using, now there is an indirect cost of of components which are faulty, which the market does not demand, which consumer refuses. There is an indirect cost, there is a cost of rejection, there is cost of service failure. So, one has to understand that ultimately all these costs are ultimately getting added up to the final balance sheet of the company. So, there is a need to learn finance which is related to supply chain. I said at the very beginning, we have all studied finance, marketing, IT, HR. Today, there is a need to learn this as a part of the supply chain, because the basic theme of supply chain is integration. So, we will have a separate session on this, and you will learn more what supply chain finance is all about. Coal supply chain. You would have all seen the kind of semi frozen foods, whether it is butter, milk, ice cream, packaged food, which has a shorter lifestyle, which should be temperature controlled. These are either manufactured within the country or imported from our other country or exported. Cold chain industry in our country is increasing. I will just refer to some of the figures in the PowerPoint. The cold chain industry is worth about 3 billion and it is growing every year. Currently, the Indian so this is what is cold chain is all about. It extends and ensures the shelf life of products such as fresh agricultural products, seafood, frozen foods, chemicals, pharmaceutical drugs. It retains the longevity, increases longevity, characteristics, active ingredients, freshness, nutritive value. And figure wise, this is a relatively an older figure, which says 12.4 billion itself at the end of 2015. So, you can imagine it would have increased at the rate of cumulative capacity of India is nearly 25 million tons, resulting a loss of about 40% of the agri produce post harvest. Since we do not have an efficient management of cold chain logistics, there is a huge loss. Items which do not have a long shelf life, it could be fruits, it could be vegetables, it could be any other products. Since we do not have a well managed, so that is the reason cold chain industry, cold chain logistics is becoming popular by the day. We have heard of reefer vans, temperature controlled vehicles which carry these temperature controlled. These are temperature controlled, which maintains the temperature of these items, as I just mentioned. Could be vegetables, could be fruits, could be daily use items like the ice creams or the butter or the milk, whatever it may be. So, there is a need to make this cold chain supply chain more and more efficient. In the next class, we are going to discuss a few other areas, one of which is port and terminal management. I will quickly flip through. Port and terminal logistics. We will also discuss about reverse logistics, which ensures a pollution free environment. And once we have done that, we have completed our overview of this particular subject as a whole, and then we get into the different compartments. We will get into the different subjects and chapters, and we are going to, I repeat, students, I know, I understand that this particular course is delivered to students who are currently undergoing MBA or PGDBM program. You have a responsibility towards your current curriculum. We want to make it interesting and as simple as possible for you to understand the supply chain management, so that it enhances your qualification. That's all for today. We are going to have the next session very soon. Thank you very much for your attention. We see you next time. Thank you.